Hi everyone. So I've spent a week with the Nexus 5 and all in all I'm incredibly impressed. There's a few things I'm going to correct throughout this video, some things that I considered to be either good or bad during my first look or full review, and some things I'd like to just update you on really. So one of the first things that I found to be quite interesting with this device over time is the battery life. Now, a lot of people have been really grumbling about the battery life, and for my mind it's not that bad. I've just not encountered the issues that a lot of other people have been having. For instance, my Nexus 5 easily makes it through a full day. Its standby time pretty good. I will say that when you have the screen on and the brightness up full, the battery does drain incredibly quickly. But show me a smartphone that isn't the case on. You know? It could do with a bigger battery, but a bigger battery would have probably pushed the price up and the weight. And we've got quite a package of hardware in here. Overall, the camera is disappointing, but that's purely because of that software APK for the camera. It's not the best camera app in the world. If you're having problems with your camera, I've uploaded a video which will show you how to patch the camera. If you've rooted your device and you have access to a custom recovery, you can flash a file from XDA and that will improve the camera quality quite considerably. Well worth doing in my opinion. The package of apps that Google provide are good. You know, the updates to those apps as part of Android 4.4 are excellent in most cases. Interestingly, the screen record tool that was provided to developers as part of the updated Android SDK does work reasonably well, and there's already a developer who has built an on-device application to allow you to do screen recording. It's fairly limited at the moment. You can't adjust the bitrate, for instance, and you can't record for longer than 3 minutes, sadly. And that is actually a hard lock applied to this particular piece of functionality in Android 4.4. So from my perspective, I won't be using it to record gameplay videos or demos or anything like that. I'll still be using my HDMI capture setup. But it is a very useful thing for developers. My one thing I would say is it sucks if you're trying to run a FPS game at 60 frames a second. For whatever reason, the internal memory just can't keep up and you get quite a lot of tearing and stuttering going on. And that's the case whether you're playing it back on the Nexus 5 or dropping it onto a computer. The quality just isn't good enough, in my opinion, for use as part of demonstration videos. If it's an FPS or a game that's really pushing the polygons for 3D. For instance, I tried Day Trigger 2, and honestly, I would rather just hook it up to my HDMI capture setup. At least then I get perfect 60 frames a second, and it just looks great. It was very, very janky, that recording tool. And that's, by the way, not this app, which for my all intents and purposes works just the same as the background elements that are part of Android 4.4. This app is basically calling those. I've hooked it up over ADB. Done the record command through a shell, and yeah, the video quality is exactly the same as that little record app that developers created, and it has exactly the same problems. So it's very much an issue with the implementation of Android 4.4 screen record tool. It could do with some work. It's not quite there yet, in my opinion, as something that I think that the majority of developers, game developers certainly, are going to be able to use to really show off what their games are all about. You're still better off using a HDMI capture setup at this point. Now, one thing that I do really want to mention is the audio quality. Now, in my first review, and my first look review and my full review, I commented that the audio quality was quite excellent. Now, having spent a bit more time with the device, what I've discovered is the audio quality is excellent, but only in certain applications. Haha, gotcha, as it were, says Google. So effectively, if you're in Google Play Music, it's loud, it's got plenty of dynamic range to it, it feels great, and you have to turn the sound down because it's making your ears hurt. However, go into YouTube, go into a game or anything like that, and I'm afraid the audio quality falls off quite dramatically. Certainly in areas where there's a strong vocal part, so for instance somebody talking or somebody singing, and it's obviously very well separated from the music, you can feel that the voice is tinny. It's losing some of its dynamic range, and it feels like it's almost missing its low ends. I think it's a 4 kHz or 44 kHz range. Now, what I think is happening is Google Play Music has its own inbuilt EQ, whether it's turned on or not within the Google Music app. And I think that is improving the audio quality considerably. What's obviously happening within the YouTube app and within games and so on is it doesn't benefit from that built-in EQ. Ideally, there needed to be an EQ within Android 4.4, as it were, so that all apps could take advantage of it. It does seem that there is a per-app tuning occurred here, where Google Play Music is able to produce a much better range of sound from this speaker than any other application would. Now, it's a little bit disappointing, but it is very much a speaker-orientated thing. When I've plugged in a set of headphones, I've not noticed the problem. So just bear that in mind. It's a shame in some respects, but it's kind of par for the course, I think, with a device of this spec. It's just a shame, really, that Google Music is giving such a great sound, and obviously it's then you go to YouTube, and then fair enough, we've got the whole YouTube low bit rates on the audio and the video and everything like that. It's going to make the sound a little bit more wishy-washy, but I would still have expected it to be just a little bit more bassy than it is. Perhaps Google could add the same EQ technology to their YouTube app. If they're looking at doing this background audio with YouTube in the near future, perhaps we'll see that functionality come in then. There's so much music that people listen to on YouTube that it just would make sense to improve that quality if they can add just a bit of EQ to it. So there you go. That's an unfortunate downside, I think, now, that if you are buying this as a device you want to listen to music on without headphones, as long as you're going to be using Play Music, you're going to be fine. But if you're wanting to listen to music through YouTube or another app, you may very well find you need to accept it's not going to be particularly awesome. Or use an app for playing back your music that has a built-in EQ and tweak things until you get it how you like it. Now, overall, I found the device to be absolutely fantastic when I've been using it. I found no major slowdowns. I've been playing a variety of different games on it, using different apps, and it's absolutely great. One thing I will say, when you gather a few friends around though, it maybe doesn't make the best impression because those viewing angles are not particularly awesome off 30%. And so a few friends have commented, oh, screen's a bit washed out. It's like, well, actually, hang on a second, here, you hold it. Oh, that's much better. So just bear that in mind as well if you're getting any stick off your friends. You know, tell them to actually hold the device if you trust them not to drop it. Then they can actually see what the device is really capable of. It's a beautifully bright screen and it has incredible sharpness to it as well. Overall, I'm not grumbling about the Nexus 5. There's a few rough edges here which are software related more than anything else. And it just feels to me that Google have absolutely nailed what the Nexus devices are like. This is almost like the final progression of the Nexus range. If they continue to build on top of the Nexus 5, as it were, if the Nexus 6 takes everything they've done with the Nexus 5 and just makes a few improvements, we're going to be looking at a very, very good range. Ultimately, the Nexus 5 is well worth picking up. Its price point is fantastic, and after a week, I still love the thing. Bearing in mind I've got an HTC One here, a Galaxy S4, a Z1, and the Nexus 5 has now become my daily driver. Overall, brilliant performance, an excellent screen. You take the Nexus 5 outside and compare it to the Galaxy S4, and straight away you can see that the Nexus 5 is easy to read. You know, even in strong sunlight. The Galaxy S4 disappears, unfortunately. Very difficult to read. And that is really the main difference between IPS and AMOLED. AMOLED does not work particularly well in strong sunlight, no matter what Samsung may claim. Nexus 5, on the other hand, using that IPS screen, it's lovely and bright and it really cuts through the glare. So, if you've enjoyed this 1 week look at the Nexus 5, do feel free to share it with your friends. Do leave us a comment, let me know how you're getting on with your Nexus 5. Any problems, any tips you'd like to share with other Nexus 5 owners, do let us know in the comments. And have a great weekend, everyone.